Have you found that after months of understanding why you had insomnia and seeing the anxiety fade, sleep is still not back to where it was before? And you're wondering how long you'll have to wait until you're finally sleeping just like before. If this sounds familiar to you, I am glad you're here because this is exactly what we're going to look at in today's episode. Welcome to this episode of Insomnia Insight. Hope it will bring a lot of value your way. As so often, this episode is sponsored by. That's an odd word. Is inspired by. I should say this is we don't have any sponsors. It's inspired by comments. And there was a particular comment a few weeks ago, and there was another one just the other week. But basically, the message in those comments was something along these lines. And by the way, this is a question I've gotten so many times, countless times. Hey, Daniel, I understand everything. I'm not anxious anymore, but it's been 6 months, or enter whatever time frame you'd like. It's been 6 months, and I'm wondering how long I have to wait until I sleep, like before the struggle, before the insomnia, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to see why we have this experience, and we're going to see how to meet it so that we sleep like before. We've divided this class into two parts. One is called the waiting game, and then how sleep returns is number two. So let's start by talking about topic number one, the waiting game. If you are somewhat familiar with our teachings and our way and our understanding, then you know that our promise is this: that insomnia happens when our brain has mislabeled being awake at night as a threat, as a danger, something to be escaped. Because then the more effort we put into attempting to escape, the more anxious we become, the more aroused we become, the more agitated we become, and the more awake we are. And then it seems even more so that we're dealing with a real threat, which makes us try to escape that even more. And this is the loop that we call insomnia. So our promise is really that when we no longer see wakefulness as a threat, insomnia will cease to exist. It will fade away. We will no longer have this struggle. Now, this can look contradicted by the following lived experience. We may very well have someone in our community who no longer views wakefulness as a threat anymore, who has contextualized everything we teach, and who understands that being awake at night is just something that happens now and then when we're when we're stressed or hyperaroused for any reason. And even though they see this, they're not sleeping like before. So we have the lived experience of sleeping shorter or maybe more fragmented, even after not seeing sleep wakefulness as a threat anymore. Why is this? That it can seem to kind of contradict our promise that insomnia ceases to exist after we no longer view wakefulness at night as a threat. So why does this happen? Well, we all know that it is normal to sleep less when we are hyper aroused for any reason. Hyper aroused is the same as saying like we're hyper alert, hyper vigilant. We're kind of on the lookout for something. And this hyper arousal has many sources. It can be excitement, like the kid before Christmas. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what I'm going to get tomorrow. They're like excited. They're happy. Their hyper arousal comes from that source. If we're angry and we're just thinking about like something that happened to us and we're upset, that can keep us in a state of hyperarousal. Fear can also keep us hyper aroused. These are very common reasons for hyperarousal. Now, another common source of hyperarousal is anticipation. When we are just waiting for something, we're preparing, we're forecasting, we're kind of internally debating if this is going to happen or not and how it's going to happen, or etc. This can become a source of hyperarousal in itself, which can keep sleep from returning. As you probably can see, you can probably see where I'm going with this, is that even when there is no threat, then the waiting itself can keep us from sleeping like we did before. And this is what I call the waiting game. This is when we have understood, we have seen our anxiety fade, Now we're just like waiting for sleep to return. And that waiting in itself can become a source of hyperarousal. So, in a paradoxical way, the waiting game is why sleep does not return. And I made a little note for myself, which was this one, compared to Wonderwall, same mechanism, different time frames. What we're talking about here, the waiting game, is actually conceptually very, very similar to, if not identical to, another common experience that we call hitting the wonder wall, or simply the wonder wall. The wonder wall is when somebody says, "Hey, I'm not anxious anymore, but I didn't fall asleep last night. It took me a long, long time. Why is that?" In this case, we can see that it's the wondering why we're not falling asleep now that we are no longer anxious that kept us awake that particular night. So the wonder wall is the same concept, but short time frame. Like the wonder wall is when we wonder why we didn't fall asleep last night, or something like that. And the waiting game is when it's like the longer time frame, like it's been months now and my sleep is still not the same. I wonder why, or why is this, it's the wondering, the waiting, the curiosity, the bewilderment, the projecting, the predicting. That's the new source of hyperarousal that now keeps us awake. Which leads us to number 2. How does sleep return in this scenario? Well, we're going to do something a little bit different here and take a detour into the world of Claire Weekes, Dr. Claire Weekes, who's written so many wonderful books about anxiety, including Hope and Healing for Your Nerves, which is the only one that I've read. I'm sure the other ones are also wonderful. That one was really nice. Something that struck me when I read this book, Hope and Healing for Your Nerves, was that Claire Weekes said not to use the word patience when we're talking with somebody who's struggling with anxiety. And the way I understood this is that Claire Weekes says, if we ask somebody to be patient, we're basically saying, just wait a little longer, and what you want to happen is going to happen to you. Patience is essentially an invitation to wait, to anticipate, to count the days and months and weeks, etc. And Claire Weekes says this is not helpful. This keeps us in this state of like hyperarousal and maybe anxiety as well. So Claire Weekes said instead to use the word "let's time pass," and that always stuck with me. It's like, okay, instead of asking for patience, we can say, we can just let time pass. Let's time pass without any particular goal line, goalpost, without waiting for anything. Let time pass. And so we can see, if we kind of translate this to our world and our teachings, is that it is seeing that the waiting itself is keeping sleep from returning. That is, the conundrum here. When we see that the waiting itself is the conundrum or the tricky thing here, then the waiting game automatically ends. We automatically go from a place of waiting to a place of like non-waiting, and then sleep returns. So yeah, that phrasing, those wordings from Claire Weekes, I thought could fit in very nicely here. Now, maybe some final words. This is something just that came to me in this moment as I was recording, was waiting can mean both these things, and patience can mean different things as well. And this is why it can be confusing in our world when somebody who's left the struggle says, to someone in this kind of waiting state, or waiting stage, if you will, when somebody who's left the struggle says, you just got to be patient, or it's just a matter of waiting a little bit longer. That person is in one way saying something which is true, and in the same time saying something that can be interpreted in a way that is tricky. Patience and waiting can mean passivity, like not doing anything particular, just letting time pass. But sometimes, people say, just be patient, just wait a little longer. It can be interpreted as like active patience, or like active waiting, which is like counting the time, like monitoring, events, etc., etc. So it's tricky, but I guess to conclude this, it's like everything that we want to experience comes from non-doing, and that includes non-waiting, if you will. So yeah, hope this made some sense. As always, please let me know what you thought in the comment section, and Look forward to having you back real soon. Bye for now.
Hi there, it's me, Coach Daniel, and I hope it is obvious to you to what degree we at the Sleep Coach School really try to put out content that will help you on your path to peaceful sleep and peace of mind. And I hope you really enjoyed the video that you just watched. Now, some people don't learn the best by watching videos, but rather by reading. And I want to share a little tip with you. The books that most people really talk about having helped them is This Is Natto and Set It and Forget It. But I think most people miss out on my personal favorite, which is Tales of Courage. All of my books are available on Amazon. But Tales of Courage is special because in Tales of Courage, we've taken 26 success stories from the channel and we've taken sort of the most powerful language, the most inspirational and educational parts of those interviews and put them in a book. And I think it is really, really so strong, so powerful when you read those words from other people who left the struggle. And that's my little tip to you. Tales of Courage, I think, is a great book, and it's available on Amazon, of course. So if that's appealing to you, you can head over there and get a copy. But more than anything else, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel, and can't wait to see you again. Bye for now.